Hey everyone. Today we're going to begin reading Act 3. This is the last act of the play 12 Angry Men. Um, starts on page 44. Um, so where we pick up on Act 3 is exactly where we left off. Right at the rise of curtain, we see the same scene as the end of Act 2. So everything that was at the end of Act 2 picks right up from there. There has been no time lapse, so no time has gone by. 3 glares angrily at 8. He is still held by 2 jurors. After a long pause, 3 shakes himself loose and turns away. Don't forget, 3 and 8 were, having an argument, and then 3 gets really angry after 8 kind of goes after him, saying that he's taking it personal. Um, and 3, is being held back, and he says, "I'll kill him, I'll kill him." And that has that awkward moment where he looks really bad because he had just previously, argued that if somebody says they're going to kill somebody, they mean it. But when he's being held back, does he really mean that he wants to kill 8? No. The other jurors move away and stand around the room now. They are shocked by this display of anger. There is silence. Then the door left opens and the guard enters. He looks around the room. "Is there anything wrong, gentlemen? I heard some noise." "No, there's nothing wrong." He points to the large diagram of the apartment. "You could take that back. We're finished with it." The guard nods and takes the diagram. He looks curiously at some of the jurors and then goes out. The jurors still are silent. Some of them begin to sit down slowly at the table. 4 is still seated downstage right. 3 still stands at the window. He turns around now. Jurors look at him. "Well, what are you looking at?" They turn away. He goes back to his seat now. 8 puts his chair back at the right end of the table. Silently, the rest of jurors, including 4, but excluding 11, take their seats. So 11 remains standing. 12 begins to doodle on a piece of paper. 11 moves down left and leans reflectively against the wall. 10 blows his nose, but no one speaks. Then finally, 4. "I don't see why we have to behave like children here." "Nor do I. We have a responsibility. This is a remarkable thing about democracy. That we are, what is the word? Notified. That we are notified by mail to come down to this place and decide on the guilt or innocence of a man we have not known before. We have nothing to gain or lose by our verdict or decision. This is one of the reasons why we are strong. We should not make it a personal thing." Slowly. "Thank you very much." Slightly surprised. "Why do you thank me?" "We forget. It's good to be reminded." 11 nods and leans against the wall again. "I'm glad that we're going to be civilized about this." Remember, 4 is the facts guy. 12. "Well, we're still nowhere." "No, we're somewhere. We're getting there. Maybe." "Maybe? Who's got an idea? I think maybe we should try another vote." He turns to the foreman. "Mr. Foreman, it's all right with me. Anybody doesn't want to vote?" He looks around the table. Most of them shake their heads. 11 has moved to the table and takes his seat. "Let's vote. Yes, vote." "So, all right, let's do it." "I want an open ballot. Let's call out our votes. I want to know who stands where." "That sounds fair. Anyone object?" Looks around. There's a general shaking of heads. "All right, I'll call off your jury numbers." He takes a pencil and paper and makes marks in one of 2 columns after each vote. "I vote guilty. Number 2, not guilty. 3, guilty. 4, guilty. 5, not guilty. 6, not guilty. 7, guilty. 8, not guilty. 9, not guilty. 10, guilty. 11, not guilty. 12, guilty. That's 6-6. 10 is mad. I'll tell you something. The crime is being committed right in this room. The vote is 6-6. I'm ready to walk into court right now and declare a hung jury. There's no point in this going on anymore. To 11. I'd like to know why you changed your mind. To 2. And why you changed your mind. To 6. And why you did. There are 6 men here who think that we may have been There are 6 men here who think that we may be turning a murderer loose in the streets. Emotion won't do. Why? 2, 11, and 6 look at each other. 6. It would seem that the old man did not see the boy run downstairs. I do not think it likely that the old man heard someone scream, "I'm going to kill you." Old men dream, and if the boy did scream that he was going to kill, then we have the authority of this man, he motions at 3, to prove that it might not really mean he's going to kill. Right? He's referencing back to when 3 had said it to 8. Right? When somebody says, "I'm going to kill you," it doesn't really mean he's going to kill. 7. Why don't we take it in to the judge and let the kid take his chances with 12 other guys? 6-6. I don't think we'll ever agree on anything. Remember, it's got to be unanimous. Motioning at 8. And we're never going to convince him. At first, I was alone. Now, 5 others agree. There is a doubt. You can't ever convince me that there's a doubt, because I know there isn't no doubt. I tell you what, maybe we are a hung jury. It happens sometimes. We are not going to be a hung jury. But we are, right now, a perfect balance. Let's take it to the judge. To 8. If there's a reasonable doubt, I don't see it. The doubt is there, in my mind. Maybe we should vote. What do you mean, vote? Not again. I still want to know. Vote on what? Are we or aren't we a hung jury? You mean that we vote yes, we are a hung jury, or no, we are not a hung jury? That's just what I was thinking of. Bitterly. We can't even agree about whether or not the window should be open. Let's make it a majority vote. The majority wins. If 7 or more of us vote yes, that we are a hung jury, then we take it into the judge and tell him that we are a hung jury. Right. And if 7 or more vote no, that means that we aren't a hung jury, and we go on discussing the case. It doesn't seem quite right to me. It's the only solution. I agree. It's the only way. Anything to end this. Looking around the table. Are we agreed then? 7 or more vote yes, and we take it into the judge. All nod. So everybody agrees on this vote of whether they're a hung jury or not. Let's call out our votes. I vote yes, we are a hung jury. Makes a mark on a sheet of paper. 2, no. 3, yes. 4, yes. 5, no. 6, no. 7, yes. 8, no. 9, no. 10, yes. 11, no. 12, yes. With a groan. Oh no! It's 6-6. We can't even get a majority to decide whether or not we're a hung jury. Rising. This is 4. I went along with the majority vote on this question. And I didn't agree with voting that way. Not really. And I still don't. So I'm changing my vote. I say no, we are not a hung jury. I believe that the boy is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. There are some things I want to find out from those gentlemen that changed their minds. He sits again. Then we aren't a hung jury. So we go on. Good, we go on. To 2. Why did you change your mind? 2. Remember, he's the meek and he's meek and weak-minded and kind of follows the crowd, hesitating a moment. He points to 8. He seems so sure, and he has made a number of good points. While he points to 3, only gets mad and insults everybody. Does the anger and the insult change the guilt of the boy? He did do it. Are you going to turn a murderer loose because one of the jurors gets angry when he thinks a murderer is being turned loose? That's true. There is a doubt. I don't think so. The track is straight in front of the window. He's talking about the train tracks. Let's take that point. So, the L train would have made a low rumbling noise. L trains screech when they go around curves. So the old man could have heard a scream, which is high pitched, and it is a tenement or a slum, like an old, kind of beat up apartment building. Kind of picture that. And they have thin walls. Good, good. That's it. That's it. 3 likes where 4 is going with this. And what if the old man was wrong about the time it took him to get to the door, but right about whom he saw? Please remember that there weren't any fingerprints on the knife, and it is summer, so gloves seem unlikely. To 8. Now I want you to listen to this man, he motions at 4. He's got the goods. So 3 likes that 4 is kind of pushing an argument for guilty. And it might have taken a few seconds to get a handkerchief out and wipe the fingerprints away from the knife. This is a point. Why don't we just time this one to see? Just what are we timing? Yes, let's be exact, please. I am saying that the old man downstairs might have been wrong about how long it took him to get to the door, but that he was right about whom he saw running down the stairs. That was the boy, the defendant. Now, it may have taken the murderer about 39 seconds to wipe away all the fingerprints and get down the stairs to the place where the old man saw him, the boy, that is. This is right. We reconstructed the old man getting out of bed and going to the door, and we timed that. Now, let's reconstruct the actual crime, as well as we can reconstruct it. So they're going to reconstruct the crime actually happening. I think a murderer could use up 30 or 40 seconds pretty easily at that point. Let's reconstruct the killing. Yes, let's. 3. Taking the knife from the table, giving it to 8. Here, you do the stabbing. Taking the knife. No, I'll do it. To 7. Why don't you be the one that gets stabbed? You're younger than I am. And don't forget, you take 1 second to fall. Rising, moving toward the right and turning. And he was found on his right side. On his side, his right side. So fall and roll onto your right side. To 8. If someone hates another person enough to kill them, don't you think that it's reasonable to suppose that the murderer would look at his victim for a second or two? To 8. Divorce yourself from this particular case. Just human nature. Yes, it seems reasonable. So what 8 is agreeing is reasonable is that if someone hates another person enough to kill them, think about it. Don't you think that it's kind of reasonable to suppose that the murderer would look at his victim for a second or two? So he's saying that, yeah, it seems reasonable, right? If the boy kills him, he would take at least a second or two to kind of look at what he just did, right? So it's not as quick as the enactment that 8 had done. 3. Hey, wait a minute. All look at 3. He falls and he ends up on his right side. The father did. But stabbing someone isn't like shooting them, even when it's right in the heart. The father would have worked around for a few seconds, lying there on the floor, writhing maybe. That's quite possible. There would have been enough oxygen in his system to carry him for 2 or 3 seconds, I should think. Wouldn't the father have cried out? Maybe the kid held his mouth. That also seems possible. So even though 8's getting arguments kind of to try to prove guilty from 4 and 3, he still thinks it's possible because he's compassionate. He's open to the discussion. Keep that in mind. Also, there's another point we might bring out. Anyone who is clear enough mentally to wipe the fingerprints away after murdering someone, well, that person is also clear enough mentally to look around the apartment, or the room in this case, to see if there are any other clues or things they left behind. It would be it would just be for a second or two, I should think, but still, he would look around, right? So somebody commits the murder, not only would they, if they stabbed the father, he would look at him as the father had a couple seconds left to, as they, the oxygen in his system carries him on for 2 or 3 more seconds, plus the extra second, when he's looking at the father. And then 4 is talking about, that person who wipes the fingerprints off of the knife would probably go and look around the apartment, and see if there was any other clues that they needed to kind of cover up after the murder. So there's more time than just, just the murder that the physical act of stabbing takes, right? It's the stabbing, it's, the father struggling for a couple seconds, and then, the murderer wiping the fingerprints, checking the room. Like there's more time involved than just stabbing and leaving the room. 3, this gets better and better. He loves it. He loves what's happening right now. 4, we're trying to make it clear. One doesn't talk about quality when murder is involved. Well, let's do it. About this on the fingerprints. The kid wiped the fingerprints off the knife. Well, what about the doorknob? If I saw a man coming into my home, a man that hated me, and if he was wiping the doorknob with a handkerchief as he came in, it would give me an uneasy feeling. They all smile. So the doorknobs must have been wiped after the killing. And this, too, would take some time. To 2. You time the last one. Why don't you time this one, too? All right. As 7 takes his position in front of 4, right? So 4 is going to pretend to stab 7. 4 has the knife in his hand. Stamp your foot when you want me to start. Waiting a few seconds. I want the hand to be at 60. He waits another second, then stamps his foot. 4, not screaming, but still loud. I'm going to kill you. Brings knife down overhand. Blade is collapsed. 7 catches knife in his hands and falls to the floor a second. Remember that 1 second after the stabbing, they heard the body hit the floor. So he falls to the floor a second after the shout. He writhes a bit, that's that 2 to 3 seconds, then rolls onto his right side. 4 stares at him for a few moments, kind of admiring, like, hey, this just happened. Like, if somebody murdered someone that way, the way the case is laying out, they'd probably stare at their victim for a few moments. That's reasonable. Then digs into his pocket and produces a handkerchief to wipe everything down. It takes him a moment or two to unfold the handkerchief. Then he bends down and wipes handle of the knife. He looks about as though checking to be sure that he has done everything. Then he rushes to the door left that leads out to the jury room and wipes the doorknob. Then he turns around a full circle and wipes knob again. He would have wiped both knobs. Then he rushes right and goes back to the door of the jury room and repeats double process on doorknob. Then he stamps his foot and cries out, "Stop!" Checking the watch. 20, 25, 29, about 29 and a half seconds, I'd say. 4, moving to behind the foreman's chair at left of the table. And whoever did murder the old man, and I think it was the kid, He still had to run down the hall and down the stairs, at least one flight of stairs. You see? You see? Seven rises from floor and dusts himself off. The old man downstairs may have been wrong on the time, but in view of this, I think it's quite reasonable to assume that he did see the kid run downstairs. To 8. So now both time sequences check. The one you did and the one we did, meaning the one 8 did and the one that 4 did. What with running downstairs and everything, it does pretty much check out on times. Sure, he's an old man who wants attention, emotions at 9. He's probably right, but the old man feels the way everyone does. A life is at stake. He sits again at the table, placing knife back on the table. 4. So the story of the old man may well be true. 8. Except for the fact that he absolutely swore under oath that it was only 15 seconds. Right? So let's just to take a quick second here. So 4 just expressed why it could have taken that 39 seconds for the murder to happen and for the boy to, do all the things that they reenacted, cleaning the doorknobs, looking at his victim, all those things, and then running down the hall and down the stairs, that the old man would have seen him. But 8's point is that even if that's all true, the fact is that the old man who was gave the testimony absolutely swore under oath, right? He takes that oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God. He swore under oath that it was only 15 seconds. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. 9. We seem to all agree that it was 25 to 40 seconds later. You are now admitting that the old man lied in one case and told the truth in the other. I admit that this does intend to confirm the story of the old man. So right there, he's admitting that what 4 is laying out confirms the story of the old man. But in part, he is now a proven liar, right? Because he swore under oath that it was only 15 seconds. But now 8 is saying, although I admit that this tends to confirm the story of the old man, but in part he is now a proven liar, and this by your own admission. 2 to 8. That may be true, that the old man lies in part, but I think it will change my vote. I think it will change my vote once more. To Foreman. Guilty. To 6. What about you? What do you think now? Getting up, crossing to the water cooler. I'm not just sure what I think. I want to talk some more. At first, I thought guilty. Then I changed. Now, I'm sort of swinging back to guilty. Takes a drink. To 11. And what about you? No, shakes his head. I am now in real doubt. Real doubt. I say guilty. I was right the first time. Now we're beginning to make sense in here. 3 really likes where this is going. It seems to be about 9 guilty to 3 not guilty. 4 sits again. One more question about the old man downstairs. How many of you live in apartment buildings? 8 hands go up, including his own. All right, we're going to pause there. So we're about halfway through Act 3. We just had a lot happen. We had a vote, and it was 6-6. They voted about being a hung jury, which, is all about them not being able to come to a unanimous decision. And the way they organized it, they couldn't even agree on that. But then 4 changes his vote to no, that they're not a hung jury. And they keep talking about it. And 4 breaks down why the old man's story is true. But 8 says, well, even though I may agree that the story is true and the added time, the old man swore under oath that it was only 15 seconds. So there's some conflict there. All right. I hope you're enjoying this story. As always, I hope that these audiobooks are helping. Um, if you need to go back and rewatch this video to help you answer the couple questions, please do so. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me via the chat. Be happy to talk to you about any and all concerns you're having.